Hello, my name is Victoria Leo, and I'm welcoming you here to learn about how to make your nonfiction project, maybe a business book, maybe a memoir, maybe a tutorial on some subject, how to make it engaging, riveting, engrossing. What you want is you want something that the reader just can't put down. And it's like, why do people say, oh, I just couldn't put it down? It's because the reader is in a state of, oh my gosh, what's going to happen next? There are fiction stories. There's things on serials on television, right? And why do you get, quote, hooked on a particular TV series, right? It's because you're trying to find out what's going to happen next. Are they going to survive? Are they going to, find the missing, whatever it is? Are they going to figure out who done it? Are they going to bring the bad guy to justice? Is true love going to triumph? That kind of stuff. The key is those same principles that make fiction engrossing can be applied to nonfiction. And I want to show you some ways to do that effectively, because there are people out there who try to make it engrossing and exciting by either dumbing down the content or making it cutesy, with cartoon animals. And sometimes that works. Sometimes it's very effective. And sometimes it's just, ooh. So, there's a lot of ways to do this wrong, right? And then, of course, if you're doing a business book, right, you may be feeling like it needs to have lots of salesy verbiage and lots of razzmatazz, and you need a lot of, bells and whistles. And the answer is no, you don't. You really, really don't. You can write things that are riveting. Absolutely can't put it down without engaging in any kind of artificial pyrotechnics whatsoever. You can write a business book that is a potential bestseller on its own merits. Now, I know everybody's engrossed in marketing, especially if you're a consultant, a solopreneur, or whatever. And I'm not saying don't pay attention to marketing. What I am saying is before you start marketing that puppy, you need to make sure that you're creating a quality product. Create a quality product and then create a quality marketing program for it, and you've got gold. You've got people who are going to embrace your book, go, oh my God, this person is so wonderful. I must call him or her right now, sign up for his or her program, and give them lots of money and my firstborn female offspring, and etc. Right? Even if you're not in business, you're not trying to sell your consulting services, you still want the satisfaction of having created a quality product. You want to be able to be proud of it. And in order to do that, you want it to be the sort of thing that people read, not because you're a relative of theirs, but because it's well written, which is beyond the scope of what I'm doing here, but also engaging. Okay, so good content, well written, engaging. I'm doing the third part of that tripod. All right, now I have a complete program for helping people create lively and engaging nonfiction. It's not very long. It's 2 hours long, but this is obviously not going to be a 2-hour video. So this is a snippet, right? We'll talk about 3 of the 6 principles. I have a downloadable PDF tip sheet that has all 6 of them in summary form. So you can, if you don't want to take the class, you don't have to. You can download the PDF, but you do have to email me, so you do have to contact me. My name is Victoria Leo. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on LinkedIn. I have a business. I am a healer of both physical bodies and mental processes. And for writers, I have a special program called Preventing Writer's Block. Practically everybody needs that. You know, you may not be doing nonfiction, you may be doing fiction, but we all have time that we waste as writers with, you know, days when it just doesn't work and blah, 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 da, da, da. There's a reason. There's something going on inside of you. And if you can break through those barriers, you'll never have to deal with wasted time again. It's very cost effective. So I encourage you to go to my website, soaringdragon.biz, B-I-Z, and explore that program. Creating lively and engaging nonfiction is not listed on the website because it's a specialty product. But contact me. It's not expensive. My email address is victoria.leo, like Leo the Lion, .reiki, R-E-I-K-I, @gmail.com. So soaringdragon.biz, B-I-Z, and victoria.leo.reiki @gmail.com. All right, let's talk about the key principles of creating lively and engaging nonfiction. And before I forget, in addition to my other, you know, I've got 2 master's degrees, certification in 97 gazillion things relating to breaking down barriers and you know, my healing work. I'm also the author of 13 or 14 books at this point. I started out writing about network technology. My first book was published in 1985. Please don't try to calculate how long ago that was. A long time. Prentice Hall bollocksed up the distribution of the book. So that's why I'm not lying on the beach in Tahiti right now. But anyway, so I did a whole series of network technology books with Prentice Hall and then with a small press. And more recently, in the last 15 years, since I've been focusing hard on serving my holistic healing clients, and I've been doing that for 20 some years. What I've discovered is that people tend to have the same kinds of problems. We're all unique, but there are some basic things. So I've done a series of books, nonfiction, obviously. Well, 1 children's fiction book, but 3, I think it's 3, 4. Getting ready to have a 4th out, books that are adult nonfiction. And so I've got, since 1985, a lot of experience in making relatively dry subjects exciting without relying on razzmatazz or cute cartoon animals or dummying down the content. My very first book back in 1985, An Introduction to Local Area Networks, one reader sent me a faux angry email saying, gosh darn it, you wrote this book and it's so engaging. I stayed up until 2 o'clock in the morning, you know, and I had to wake up again at 5:30 to go to work. And I went to work with only 3.5 hours of sleep, blah, 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 blah. You're awful. You're terrible. Don't stop. And another person, which absolutely blows my mind, read the first book in one of my network management series, read the first book in the series while he was on an airplane, and he was so engaged and in love with this book. He picked up, you know, they used to have $5 a minute charges on those in-flight special phones. He picked up this phone and he, you know, gave him a credit card and then called me and actually got me at the publishing company, which is amazing. Because he wanted to know where in New York City, which is where he was landing, where can I get the second book in the series? I don't want to stop, you know. And when I was I and the rest of the marketing department of the publishing company were dithering while he's, paying $5 an hour, at $5 a minute. So I said, tell me where your hotel is and I'll call you back. Anyway, but the key is you want to write a book that's that engaging that people can't wait for book number 2, or they can't, it's like, I really should go to bed. It's 11 o'clock at night, but just one more chapter, mommy. You want to write a book like that. Okay, that's the El Dorado that will allow you to take your book and make a bestseller out of it. You can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. Okay, you don't want to create a sow's ear. So let's focus on the first 3 of my 6 principles for how to make it lively and engaging. All right. So what is it that is the hottest seller in the nonfiction area? And that is narrative nonfiction. Nonfiction that tells a story. It's not just chapter 1. What is a rock? Okay, let's talk about rocks. Chapter 2, let's talk about metamorphic rocks. Blah, 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 blah. Or I suppose you wouldn't start with metamorphic. You'd start with sedimentary. Anyway, what the heck? I'm not a geologist. But we're not talking about that kind of blah, blah, blah. One thing after another, very logical, tutorial style, beautiful, wonderful. But not as engaging as narrative nonfiction. One of the exemplars of narrative nonfiction that I encourage you to go out and read is Krakatoa by Stephen Winchester. He's written a whole bunch of books, some of them a little more engaging than others. A more recent book is The Men Who United the States. And in The Men Who United the States, he explains why he wrote this book. It involves his Chinese mother-in-law and the 5 elements of air, wood, water, etc. And he used that to structure the stories in his book. But he's a master, and that was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And explaining about his family and his beloved mother-in-law who died right after she blah, blah, blah. It's beautiful. It pulls you in and engages you. Okay. However, he's always been a master of the flow of stories. So every single chapter in The Men Who United the States focuses on people, right? Who they were, why they did what they did. It's very effective. His best book in terms of techniques to learn from, though, is Krakatoa. Okay, and the first principle that I want to suggest to you, if there's any way on earth to make this happen, is to bring people into your story. Okay, you're talking about a particular business principle. Let me tell you about Paul. You always change the names and so on. And this is the dilemma that he had, and then blah, 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 5 pages later. And then Paul did something else and da, 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 da. And and then later on you find out how Paul resolved his issue. What that does is it pulls people in. Now, one thing I will say, please make these stories about real people. Don't make them barely disguised. I'm so wonderful. I'm such a brilliant coach, counselor. Pull back on the ego stuff. Don't make the story of Paul a sales pitch for you and how wonderful you are. It's less effective. People these days are not stupid. We can recognize a sales pitch from 10 miles away. So make it real. Make it real. Please make it real. So individual people or couples, You may have different people in different chapters, depending on what the needs of whatever it is you're trying to do. You may have the same people weaving in and out of the whole book, right? You may have some people in chapter 1, some different people in chapter 2, and then they kind of weave it in and out in chapter 3, and then 4 and 5 have different people, and then there's the original, some of the older material, the older people come back in chapter 7, that kind of thing. But think about people. Don't tell people what they should do or feel. Demonstrate it, okay? And let me tell you how, and I'm telling you how Stephen Winchester does it, okay? Krakatoa is about an enormous volcanic explosion, which killed a lot of people, wiped out a lot of commerce, was detected in the barometric readings as far away as London. The tsunami was felt thousands of miles away. It was incredible event in world history. And what he does is he starts with painting a picture of this particular town, this particular village, and you get to know the people in it. And it's a quiet Sunday afternoon, and then all of a sudden, things start happening. There's an enormous bang, the water recedes, and then you have this enormous wave, and he describes the wave. He doesn't tell you people were panicking. He doesn't say, oh, the fear was terrible. What he does is he describes what the people are doing. Somebody looked up and they suddenly realized, and they grabbed their daughter and they ran. You don't have to say this person is panicked. It's going to be, the reader's going to go, oh my God, yes, I know, I can imagine, I can put myself there. So you're describing rather than, you're painting a vivid word picture. This is principle number 3. Painting a vivid word picture, not using adjectives and adverbs. And you're not telling the reader how to feel. You're allowing it to arise from the intrinsic drama of what you're describing. Okay. Now, what do you do if you don't have a tsunami? You can have an individual who has dreamed of being a painter her whole life. And she does this and she does that. And you can say she put up her pictures and she went out to take a walk. And as she walked along, she looked into the faces of the people around her, wondering, what is it that people really want when they look to buy art? Is my whole life that I've struggled so long and so hard, is it going to turn out to be something? She looks in a window and she sees candy, and she remembers being a child, and she remembers her dreams of being an artist, and okay. And she walks back with her heart in her throat, and she looks at the wall, and 2 of her paintings are gone. And she starts to shake. You don't have to tell anybody how she's feeling. Anybody who's reading that knows how she's feeling. Anybody who's desperately wanted something to happen knows about that shock before the joy. You're, oh. Okay, so you don't have to tell people how to feel. If you set the stage correctly. Okay. Principle 1, have people in the story. The 2 key principles of making things engaging are it has to involve people and it has to be entertaining. Now, how could a tsunami and all this loss of life be entertaining? Stephen Winchester has moments where you laugh and you there's a character who loves his kids and they're playing on the beach and you can see all the joy, right? And so on. There's a lot of witty little moments. The brand new telegraph lines that got the news of the disaster to London, the Reuters, and all these things are just intrinsically, wow, I wonder what's going to happen next. Are the lines going to be cut? Are they going to get through? You know, all this stuff. Really, really engaging. It grabs you, really grabs you. The another tip, this is tip number 2, is where it's appropriate, and not so much with Krakatoa, but in the kinds of books that you're going to be writing, a business book, a memoir, some kinds of tutorials. I wrote a book about winter depression, and I used this principle, which is put yourself into the story, but not in a salesy, I'm so wonderful, larger than life way. Okay? It's because you're a person and therefore you're interesting. Okay? Make sure that you show up as imperfect. And I don't mean, oh, I was imperfect and then I saw the light and now I'm totally perfect. That not as engrossing to anybody other than you, as you might think. So I've got winter depression. It makes absolutely no sense for me to live in Seattle until you understand that I'm incredibly happily married to somebody who currently, as of this moment in 2016, has a job with the Boeing Corporation doing something really cool. You know, it's one of these dream jobs that you would never want to drag somebody away from. So part of the year, I live with you know, Mr. Exciting Boeing job, and as much of the winter as I possibly can, I spend in places that are good for my health. Have some sunshine. And I wrote this book full of tips and techniques for the times when you, for whatever reason, are stuck living in a place that is not Hawaii or Southern Florida, and you're not, you know, blessed with sunshine most of the year. So, and you know, all these techniques are things that I do, and I talk about people, how various of my clients, because I have a lot of clients who come to me for help with depression, winter depression, and, you know, just general depression, as the same techniques work. So I've got people all through this book, and I've got me. Okay, not in an intrusive kind of a way, not in a I'm so fabulous kind of a way, but I'm there, right? It builds some rapport between author and reader, and that's my my first 3 techniques, first 3 tips. The rest of them are in the tip sheet. Come join the class, email me to get the tip sheet. Good luck good writing in all your wonderful nonfiction endeavors. My name is Victoria C. Leo, soaringdragon.biz, and I'm on Facebook under Soaring Dragon, and also Healing Minds, Healing Bodies. I've got a Pinterest account if you like pictures, and I'm of course on LinkedIn. And my email to get that tip sheet is victoria.leo, L-E-O, .reiki, R-E-I-K-I, @gmail.com. Happy writing.